So the first thing that we need to do is create a Mapbox account. I of course already have one, so you guys should log into mapbox.com and then make yourself a Mapbox account. I already have an account, but so let's skip ahead to I'll create a new project. And there are a few things that you can do here on Mapbox. We're focusing on TileMill, but the two things are very related to one another. So for now, I'm just going to save that, saying that I have created a new one. And then just go back to your map manager, and this will be important in a minute. So you should have already downloaded TileMill. Create yourself a new project. Let's call this example for screencast, and that's all we need. Example for screencast. The next thing you want to do is click on the plugins tag, and eventually it'll load up the available plugins. I already have mine installed, but you want to get TileMill-reference-layer. And I'll tell you why that's important in just a second. So it'll show up down here, but so just click install and it'll install it up here. The reason that that's important is because let's take a look at our map. So example for screencast, here's our project. So what we have, by default, your TileMill projects will be very bare bones. You can choose to initialize it with just there being a map and countries. See what happens if I erase that style. Then all we have is the water. So it starts out very bare bones because TileMill is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly extensible. And so they assume that you're going to want to make your own map completely from scratch. But we're not in that kind of business, so we're not actually going to do that. And the reason that we installed TileMill reference layer is because we want to start with a map that's more kind of like this. So we can zoom in on our own. Here we are right here. See how it's got place names, it's got parks, it's got street names. It's much more detailed than what you see over here in your project. This is just blank. I can zoom in on us here over in Santa Cruz, and you'll see it's all just white. No, we can get points on here, but there's no reference, so it's not that useful as a map. So what you need to do is just go over into, where is it? Yes. Copy your map ID, go back to TileMill. I'm going to erase this because we don't need it anymore. Hit the wrench. And here where it says reference layer, or rather reference lay, got done. It says put in your Mapbox map ID. Just put in your map ID, hit save, and then we have all that beautiful reference stuff now. We can zoom in on Santa Cruz, California, and we'll see that it says Santa Cruz. There, that's much, much, much more useful than just having that completely blank map. So we've got our reference layer there. We've uploaded the reference layer, and so now it's time to add a layer. This is where we import all that beautiful California public college data. To do that, you go over down here to the lower left. This is in recent years become like the universal icon for layers. We'll do add layers, or add a layer. So don't even bother putting anything in. All we need right now is just the data source. So when you're doing your homework, I believe what your homework is tonight is to go through TileMill's crash course, and they have you link to live data, which is very, very helpful. But for this purposes of this, we're just using a static data set. So just go ahead to browse. It's in my files. Desktop, I put it right there. CA unis with latlong.csv. I'll hit done. And now just hit the save and style. And as you can see, we've got these points. Over here, that's Sonoma State University. That's Sac State. I think that's UC Davis right there. There's San Jose State. And this lovely little place right here is UC Santa Cruz. There you can see it's got our bay and high entrance. Now what you might notice also is that when I'm mousing over these things, nothing happens. They don't have any labels on them or anything like that. And so we need to tell Mapbox that we want to actually have something happen when we put our cursors over it. And so the way that we do that is by styling the markers. Or rather, it's by adding tooltips. So go over to this little fancy point and clicky thing here, right here, and go over to teaser. We're going to select the layer that we're using. That would be this one. And so these guys down here are called mustache tags because programmers have a sense of humor, and you know curly braces look like mustaches. And so these are basically saying these are the column headers. In fact, we can look at our data set right here. You can see that we had the address, the city, state, zip code, Latin long, name, all that good stuff. And that's very helpful. So this is one of the ways that TileMill is different from like Batch Geo. If you'll remember Batch Geo, we'll take a look at the data there. Let it start up. So if you look at the KML file from over there, then we had Latin long and the name and then comment. And so like when you would mouse over, then you would get the name and the location, but then all that's left is just the generic comment area. But over on TileMill, as many column headers that you have, you can have that be individual bits of information that you display. So why is that important? It's important because we want to create something that'll pop up when you put your mouse over it. So we could just copy these things wholesale and see what happens. Click Save to save the changes, of course, or you can hit Command or Control S or whatever it is that you're using. So what happens when we mouse over? We now get all this information. We get the full address, the zip code, the latitude and longitude, the name, the URL, but that's too much information. We don't want that. So as you'll notice that when I do address, it shows up the address. Same thing with city, state, zip code. We want to do something a bit more manageable. So let's say that we want to start it with the name. So I would copy over name, save, let's take a look at it. There, we just get UC Santa Cruz up there in the top right corner. Let's add something else. Let's say that we also want the zip code, why not, or the group. No, let's do zip code. If you save this and then the thing's not actually showing up, odds are you either spelled it wrong or you forgot one of these curly braces. We see that it says UC Santa Cruz 95064. What if I wanted a space in between those things? What happens when I go like this? Logic would tell you that the name would be printed on top of the zip code, but this actually follows sort of HTML rules. So you need to actually think of this as like code. Think back to web design class when you were using HTML, that you need to differentiate between lines. So we just add the handy BR tag, just like we did in web design. Save it, and there we go. So just to review what it was that we did, I'll delete this whole thing and run through it really fast one more time. So we've got nothing. I'll get rid of that. We got nothing. I want to add a layer. I'm going to upload CA unis with lat long. Hit done. Hit save and style. We've got our data points, but we don't have our tooltips. Go to the pointer thing. Click teaser. And oh, it saved it for us. That's very nice. Select the layer that you want to style, or that you want to make this stuff of, and then it tells you the specific information that you're allowed to display. Let's say name. I'll skip a line. and group. And why not also, let's do the URL. Save, close it, let's take a look. And there we go, UC Santa Cruz. It's obviously a UC and there's its address. So there's some more stuff that we can do, so meet me in part 3 and we'll go over that.